Happy to be here today talking to the definition of a Renaissance man, best-selling author of Fresh on the Boat, restaurateur, television host, producer, a lawyer, which some people probably don't know, or if you've been following Eddie, then you know, and now director. Eddie Huang. Today we'll be talking about his brand new film, Boogie. Eddie, how you doing today?
I'm fantastic, man. Happy to be here with you.
Man, I'm happy to be here too, man. I've been following your shows and projects. I've been a fan for a long time, and I always say, like, you know, if Eddie has 10,000 jobs, then I can have 10,000 jobs. I'm always moving 1,000 miles per hour, and I want to know, how can a guy as active and productive as yourself, how have you been surviving COVID?
I mean, well, I bounced to Taiwan on March 14th. So the day the NBA got canceled, I just bought a ticket and I went to Taiwan because I was like, man, if there is no NBA, like, I'm out. And I saw also Tom Hanks got sick, and I was like, if they can't protect Tom Hanks, it's a wrap. So I went to Taiwan because I had been reading that in Taiwan they were tracking and tracing and that it was safe. But after a year in Taiwan, man, I really missed America, and I have a newfound respect and appreciation for America. I've never really felt American, and I'm never like Team America because of so many of the hypocrisies and just injustices in our country. But after not being here for a year, I just missed being in a country, participating in this experiment where we got people from all around the world trying to come together as one. And I do think that there are people like me and you and some of the homies we got in the DMV that are doing this and actually doing the experiment we're here for. Then there's some white people in Congress, and there's some white people in these red states that don't want the experiment to happen, that wish we never came. But, you know, man, I came home because I missed being part of such a diverse country.
It's crazy because it's like, with all the stuff that we go through here, it's kind of hard to really get that perspective unless you spend time in a different place. That's a very interesting take. Congrats on the film.
Thank you, man.
You added director to the arsenal as a person. Yeah. I always consider you to be a person who pushes the culture forward. The person who's very proud of where he's from, but also very, very excited to embrace all of the cultures that surround you, which is always a beautiful thing. So I think we should start with talking about what made you decide to do this project right now.
Yeah, well, it's exactly what you just said, is that I'm very proud of where my ancestors are from, China. You know, our family was part of the side that lost in the Chinese Civil War and fled to Taiwan. My parents were born in Taiwan. My grandparents were very poor, and they just sold buns under a bridge. You know, they were just laying on blankets, and the whole family, like 12 kids between two grandparents, they were just selling bread. And so that's where we come from. And to make it to America and have the privilege of being born here, it's been amazing. But I was able to have this duality where my parents raised me very traditionally in our home. But then I saw what was going on outside in America, and I was excited by it, and I wanted to participate. And that's what this film is about. It's about a kid who wants to honor his ancestors and his family and his culture, but doesn't exactly fit into it and doesn't exactly agree with it. And he's very inspired, and he's very into Black culture and specifically basketball. And, you know, the love interest in the film was a Black woman as well. And I just think that this is what makes America wonderful, is that we don't have to follow this like traditional playbook of where we're from. We can take what's meaningful and what resonates with us, but then look at other people's playbooks and then participate in their culture and bring some of our knowledge to them and vice versa. And because that's been my experience. And whether it was on basketball courts or kitchens or just kicking it, you know, I really have absorbed and become a part of the culture.
And I want to get a little deeper into the film, but first I want to say salute on the music, man. You started off with Exhibit C from Jay and Let. And
yeah.
Then I think I heard For the Squad by Isaiah Rashad in there. I'm like, okay,
Yep.
like this how we coming with it, you know?
Yeah.
I've already, like I said, I'm already familiar with your work, so I already knew you was going to come with it. But even with like choices like that, is that a part of your personal aesthetic or?
Absolutely. Like I remember the first time I heard Exhibit C. I think it was like DJ Soul played it in CV. And I still remember first time I saw Snow Beach live was like DJ Just Blaze was rocking it at this place Sutra. And I rolled up. I was like, yo, I gotta get a photo with you. It's like, why? It's like, well, I never seen a Snow Beach in person. And I got a photo with him. And then like 10 years later, me and Just Blaze are friends. And he's like, Exhibit C kicks off the film. And no, man, that's the culture. Like you see a lot of polo in the movie.
No doubt.
And
No doubt.
Blaze is just one of the illest lowheads. So I was like, I kind of got to kick that off with him. And I love Jay Elec, everything he stands for, a lot of that knowledge. So I wanted to like embed that in there as well. And of course, it's a Brooklyn drill film, right? Because once we were blessed with Pop, his existence and his presence, we had to, receive that power. And I had originally planned this film. I always love Only Built for Cuban Link, the purple tape. And on the purple tape, you have John Woo, the killer, the film, narrating the whole album. And I was going to have it come full circle and be like, yo, I'm going to have Raekwon in like incarcerated Scarfaces narrate Boogie. And I was like, then it's like Asian film gave to Black music, and Black music going to give it back to Asian film. I thought that would be really ill. But once I met Pop, all that went out the door because it was just this energy in New York.
It's heavy. Like even, for him to be, such a young brother, his music and how he came across the track, it was a heaviness to it. And I think that heaviness fit the film perfectly.
Yes.
The layer of, there's a feeling and a passion that he has. And, I think, that was a great choice. And, and the purple tape is still a classic. The real ones call it the purple tape because, when we first popped it, the tape was purple.
Yeah.
But one of the layers.
Pop, I love what you just said about Pop, because Pop, man, it feels like the knowledge of ancestors when he speaks. His voice and his presence is an old soul. It always felt being around Pop like he'd already lived 20 lifetimes.
Yeah, it's like such an unfortunate situation. And it's an honor that you got a chance to capture these moments. It's just outside of the music, another way for a person to just live on. And I believe we live through our art. Which absolutely. Is why I don't fear a lot of things that people fear, because I've created so much art. You have such a amazing body of work that we've contributed so much to what's going on out here. So that's kind of how we got to live our lives. One of the layers that I think people will respect when they're watching this film in general is how you handle the complexities between minorities, right? All Black people don't understand what some of our Asian brothers go through, and vice versa, right? We're all too busy being oppressed in our own rights and trying to survive and fight above the racism that tries to hold us back. And I think you did a really good job with showing the differences. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite scenes of the film is the beef and broccoli scene, when their two main characters, the love interests, speak about beef and broccoli. And I use beef and broccoli because I used to just, post up at the takeout, the carry out spot, sit outside, and I would hustle. I would sell t-shirts. I would sell all manner of things out on the bench. But it really helped me understand how we can all live in spaces together, because most of the customers at the carry out was Black. I was one of the only Asian customers at this takeout spot on Fulton Street. And I remember I would see things like all the kids in the neighborhood, when they would buy like a juice or something at the bodega, they wouldn't give them cups and ice. So they come across to the Chinese spot and get cups and ice. And I'd always be like, yo, you didn't even buy anything here, man. Why you always come get the cups and ice here and then you don't buy anything? They're like, well, because y'all are nice. Y'all give it to us. And I was like, oh. So it's kind of an honor to be that in the neighborhood. And they're like, yeah, when we got money for wings, we come buy wings, and we buy pork fried rice. So it's like one hand washes the other. And I was like, yo, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it's supposed to be. We got to have empathy for you, and you have empathy for us, and bada boom, bada bing. that's how you can avoid things like the LA riots.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you have to, I started to see, because my perspective was I came from a family where I had aunts and uncles and cousins that owned takeout spots. And, you know, they had spots in the hood. And on the other side, when I was living in Fort Greene and I was more on the local side of it. It wasn't my aunt or my uncle's shop. I was like, oh, now I see the perspective of my homie Richie or Twin who's coming in here. And it's like, yo, man, these Chinese people came in our neighborhood and we spend most of our money here. So if we need cups of ice, they should break us off. And I was like, that makes sense. That makes sense, because we coming into your neighborhood making money. We got to give back to you. And if cups and ice is what you want, if extra duck sauce pack is what you, cool, you know, but we should probably do even more. And that's why I chose beef and broccoli, because beef and broccoli is this thing that our communities intersect over. You know, like you name a pair of field boots, like Timberland field boots, beef and broccoli, you know, like,
right, no doubt.
Yeah. And so when Boogie talks about the things that are difficult for him in America, Eleanor flips it on him and is like, look, cool, hold that. I empathize with you, my Asian brother, but do not forget our struggle, because the Black woman's struggle is probably the greatest one, you know? And when she reminds him that, like, your family at least chose to come to this country. I was ripped from my country. I don't even know where I'm from. It really sets Boogie on a different path. And I think it's one of the most powerful conversations there, because sorry I'm talking so much, but the inspiration for it sprung from, I saw that a lot of Asians were protesting affirmative action, because affirmative action was like hurting Asian kids getting into schools because there was already too many of us in like good colleges. And I was like, but yo, think about other people. Like affirmative action ain't just for Asians. Like, so it maybe negatively affects us going to colleges, but this is an important thing for the fabric of our society. And it upset me that we didn't have that foresight and we didn't have that solidarity with the Black community, because so much of what Black people have done to pave the way for civil rights in this country, we all benefit from. Every American benefits from.
And then the gaps that we just have to close. Like, we can't close those gaps until we start having these types of conversations. Like, we need to understand any and everything that's happening to any other oppressed group if we ever want to take a real step at moving forward. When you were talking about beef and broccoli, you made me think of when I was in grad school and I was writing a short story. And in the short story, I went to the store to get a box of yakami, right? And it's an MFA program. So MFA programs are notoriously white. Like, it's not a lot of Black people going to, graduate school to be writers and all that. And, I'm in class, and when I wrote it, the whole class is like, yo, what's yakami? And mind you, I'm in Baltimore. The huge segment of the program are people from around the Baltimore area, but they never heard of yakami before. It's totally like a cultural thing. And they're like, it's a noodle? Then they put a boiled egg in it? And what else they do? And I'm like, yo, it's lit.
Yeah. And you see, even in Boogie, it's like we be dropping the egg in the ramen noodle too. It's like all of us, everyone that was poor in America took ramen noodles and made meals out of it. And yeah, white people didn't necessarily understand that.
My friends who are waiting to see the film, they think it's just like going to be a straight up basketball flick, but I feel like there's a deep family dynamic, trauma that needs to be confronted. Can you just tell our viewers and readers a little bit about some of the things you were trying to conquer without saying too much, because we want everybody to go see it?
No, sure. I've always wanted to be a director, writer my whole life. And it's because when I was 17, my family, it's well documented. There was a lot of violence in my family. My mom and dad would fight a lot. They beat each other up. They beat us up. And that's not to like blame my parents. I'm not trying to play the victim. I love my parents.
I feel you.
I stand by them, because that's a difficult thing. I remember when I tried to get therapy, the therapist would want me to like be mad at my parents, and I just walked out because I was like, that's not in me, But anyway, my aunt and the family knew that my family would struggle with violence, but they didn't do anything about it. But I ended up watching Good Will Hunting at my aunt's house, and I didn't have anything in common with these two white dudes from Boston, but that film changed my life, because when I saw Will Hunting go through it and talk to Robin Williams, I was like, yo, I can talk about this, and this film has reached me and made me feel less alone and less alien
No
because
doubt.
of what's going on in my home. So I was like, I'm gonna make a movie one day so other kids that go through this can feel less alien too.
Robin Williams put that big hand on him. He had to choke him out. He's like, never talk
Yeah,
about my wife ever again, Chief.
yeah, yeah.
That's no, that was it. But in touching on the basketball aspect, I know you play some ball too. What basketball films were you raised on?
You know, I love all of them. Funny, I love loving basketball. Like Quincy, I was a big Omar Epps fan as a kid, so I love Quincy. Even though my best friend Elena is like, that's the most toxic character in all of film. She hates Quincy. I love him. What else? Above the Rim,
Yo,
classic.
the Rim was it. Above the
Yeah,
Rim was it. That was the one for me.
yeah, yeah.
Yo,
Because that had the best basketball. The handles was crazy, and you really felt like those were the park games. You know, obviously he got game. Jesus Shuttlesworth, probably the greatest name of all time. Rosario Dawson fucking did her thing. Those are the basketball films I watched. Like I remember people like, oh, you gotta watch Hoosiers. I can't connect to Hoosiers. But what are the best? Those are the ones. You know, I honestly can't remember too many other ones. You know.
No, I had Above the Rim on a VHS tape, and you know we played that every day.
Yeah. Oh, that documentary Hoop Dreams. That
like,
was a hard one.
but you need like 5 hours as a kid to watch it.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah. And it was like, as a kid, it felt like I was eating health food watching Hoop Dreams. I was like, you know what? Let me just watch Above the Rim again. But as I got older, I was like, yeah, Hoop Dreams is tough.
And then even if you look up to like what happened to some of them dudes now, like a lot of people who were in that film, like the brother and the dad, and a lot of those people are dead, man. It's just a tragic story all the way around. When I was watching Boogie, I was thinking about the pressure on Asian athletes, right? Because there's already like that strong culture of academics, right? You better get B, you better get A's. You know, B's mean you're in trouble. You're in trouble big time. Do you feel like things might be changing, or do you feel like it's always going to be secondary to academics, unless you're like Yao Ming's height?
You know, in our culture, especially in America, I do think there are more Asian American kids like me that, you know, early on, they may not be as good at school as their parents want them to be, and they find other ways. You see Asian skaters, Asian ball players. You know, it's funny, like if you watch Asian League basketball, we all are shorter, you know, we not usually as athletic, but we play like the Spurs, you know, like even when we would play the teams from the other side of town, it's like you got like 5 Patty Millses versus, you know, the other team. But, you know, you play team ball and you play smart, you play efficient basketball, especially with the advent of the three-pointer. You know, I do think you're going to see more Asian basketball players because.
Oh no, it's an Asian game at Johns Hopkins University at the college on Sundays. I used to go work out. I used to go work out like and I used to play in the game, but it's a beautiful thing because it's thick. Like it's like, you know, it make me feel like battling down Bowtech Park on Sunday morning. So it's definitely, you know, it's definitely like it's love. It's love.
It's a different run. You know, I didn't grow up playing Asian League. I would always just play the regular YMCA. I go to the park. I play in Brooklyn. I play in Fort Greene. I play at Pratt. But then once I moved to LA like 5 years ago, it was the first time I joined like Asian League. Mm-hmm. And it was even different for me. But then we would play other like Culver City League and other teams. And we would win, and cats actually be like, yo, y'all motherfuckers can, boy, y'all doing the Spurs shit. Like,
they move the ball a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, as you know, like, I mean, you know, like where I'm from, East Baltimore is like 1,000% black, and everybody who touches the ball, we hold it for like 30 minutes. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a lot of handle and it's a lot of ISO and picking on the weak guy. And like, yo, we play zone. You know what I mean? Like we go in there and we play our 2-3 zone. And people, these motherfuckers playing zone, and like we get laughed at, but that zone works. Because we not tall enough to play one-on-one. So it's a help defense situation, you know. But I love it. It's fun to see how every culture plays ball different. Every city, You know what I mean? Like I grew up in the DM. I remember seeing like cats from Dunbar, and I remember like that Potomac area style of basketball.
Yeah, there's some good ball players out that area. Well, fresh out the boat, you spoke really freely about how that show really got a lot of Asians a seat at the table, but you felt like sometimes your story was a little whitewashed because it was network television, and you got to fight those battles with the writers and the showrunners and all that. But do you feel like you get a freedom to tell the story you want to tell with a film like this? Or?
Yeah. And I finally, for once, feel free of the shadow of that show because I was not proud of it. I felt very disappointed, even though it went on for 6 seasons and it's a commercial success. And I think when you put Boogie next to it, it's just like say no more. Like I think, you've seen the film. Now the proof is in the pudding, and everything I said we could do, I did. At that time, a lot of Asians told me, shut up, let this thing win for us. Let us keep our seat at the table. And I was like, nah, we have to have a higher standard. We need to demand more, not just of ourselves, but like the system. And
that has to be a tough conversation. That has to be a tough conversation to have.
Yeah, it broke my heart, man. Like I really retreated for a while, and people in my own community were trying to silence me, and it just pissed me off because not only was it that story, my biggest issues with Fresh Out the Boat were it stripped the pain and struggle from our story and made it funny, and they only dealt with issues that could be solved in 22 minutes, and the family end up on a couch. The second thing,
that's difficult. Yeah, that's difficult. It's difficult. I just thinking about it as like I've just started writing television, and I don't even know how I would take some of the emotion from the memoir and transfer that into a 22-minute show. Like unless it's like a heavy 22-minute drama where we're just hitting people over the head with all of that, and it's difficult.
Yeah. The other thing that upset me was it was marketed as a hip hop show, but where were the black people? Black people weren't getting paid on that show. They got cameos and things like that. But in Boogie, you see it's a truly diverse cast. And this is the vision of America that I believe in. And
Boogie feels like New York.
Yeah.
It feels like New York. You seem to be living the goals of like 10 different people right now. Are you satisfied as a creative entrepreneur?
Oh yeah, I'm very satisfied. This is where I belong. I just want to direct film. I closed up my restaurants. I thank all the fans. But I had my run. I had 10 years in the restaurant game, and I'm gonna full-time direct and write film and television. This is my heart. This is what I love to do.
We looking forward to it. I always use your story and talk about your revolutionary hustle because I do a lot of work with a lot of artists, and I think like we need to see stories of people being able to be successful in television, hosting a show, with their business, directing, acting, just living out there for everything. Anything else you're working on that we should be looking out for?
Oh man, I got a few scripts I wrote, but I wanted to tag on what you just said because that's very inspiring stuff. And I guess I'll end with that is just to say, at every step of this process, people told me this film would never work. I actually left my former agency because they looked at this film and they were like, yo, no one is gonna make a coming of age teenage story with an Asian American male lead because there isn't an Asian American male actor that will sweep at the box office. And then also you're adding the element of basketball, which is expensive to shoot and difficult. You just can't get this made. They also many times told us you will never sell a soundtrack with this size of film because this is actually an independent, this is a smaller film. It looks big because we immigrants, we know how to squeeze every dollar out of that fucking orange, and we squeezed it. And we have every one of my friends and family favors, and Stephen, Victor, Rico, they've been super supportive. Pop's family been supportive. This is an entire village pushing this thing. But I would just say to everyone else out there, if you have a vision and you want to do it, just do it and do it with your village. Do it with the people that get you. Because even before coming to this, the financiers, the distributors, they didn't understand the audience that I wanted to bring to this film. And now that they're seeing it, they're like, we've never had pickup on a focus film from like Boss Up or All Hip Hop. And I was like, yo, these are customers. These are people that need to be served, that are dying for content. And same for the Asian community, but also it's the people coming to this film. It's Black, it's Latino, it's Asian, it's everybody. And I was like, y'all don't serve us. But if you have a vision and you have a product that your community wants to buy, man, you got to push that rock up the hill.
Facts.
There ain't nobody else going to do it.
You did it, man. You definitely, you made it happen. Tell everybody where they can see the film.
It's going to be in theaters March 5th. And then hopefully we could G one of these streamers with a good deal and sell it there too.
No doubt. Well, wishing you the best, man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. It's great to talk to you.
Hey, pleasure's mine. Peace.